Okay, Assalamualaikum. Very good morning. Boleh dengar tak?
Waalaikumsalam. Good morning, Doktor.
Okay. Kita tunggu dulu ya pelajar sebab tak ramai, baru 10 orang. Dalam lagi 5 minit saya akan mula ya. Okey.
Okey, Doktor.
Okey, kita mulakanlah ya. Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Good morning to all students. Okay, for today's lecture, I will be covering topic on hazardous waste management. Yeah, and at the end of this lecture, I will be discussing, or I'm giving some tips for the test number 2 that you will be having on 28, yeah, I think next week, no, next week, the following week on the 28th of January, yeah. Okay, before that, we'll start with the lecture, then information or discussion on the tips for the test number 2. Okay, so let me share the slide for today. Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes, Doctor.
Okay, so today's lecture on hazardous waste management, and it is actually also included in the test number 2. Okay, first of all, I think in your second year, we have been discussing something also related to hazardous waste management, yeah. So this semester, in your final year, we'll discuss in more detail on what is hazardous waste management. Okay, so it is probably we are thinking about some questions about hazardous waste. Yeah, what are the items or elements that we consider to be hazardous waste? Yeah, what are the categories? Yeah, and then how does it affect to human, to us, and also the environment? Yeah, and then the sources where it come from, how to dispose, and what kind of management available that is being done in Malaysia. So those are some questions that we might think of before we start to know more about hazardous waste. And another thing is that we also sometimes will hear that people are calling, or they are talking about scheduled waste. Yeah, so what's the difference between hazardous waste, scheduled waste? So that's what we will learn and need to know in this topic. Okay, so by definition, referring to the United Nations Environment Program, so it says here it is hazardous waste means waste or that includes solids, sludge, yeah, meaning some liquid in the solid waste, yeah, or liquids altogether, and also gases. Okay, so those that can be included as a category of hazardous waste, and this is excluding radioactive and also infectious waste by reason of their chemical activity of toxic, explosive, corrosive, and other characteristics cause danger or likely will cause danger to health or the environment, whether alone or when coming into contact with other waste. So this is actually definition from UNEP, yeah. Others, US EPA, it says that hazardous waste is any waste or combination of waste which pose a substantial present or potential hazard to human health and living. Oh, okay, so it's almost similar to the initial one, yeah. Okay, so there are about in Malaysia, it is called scheduled waste, and there are 107 categories, which include waste generated mainly from petroleum and oil refineries, pharmaceutical, rubber processing, chemicals, and electronics, and also semiconductors industries. Okay, so classification can fall under class 1 as explosive, class 2 as gases, class 3 as flammable, yeah, can easily be flamed, yeah. Flammable solids and substance, class 4, oxidizing substance and organic peroxides, class 6, toxic and infectious substance, yeah. Class 7, radioactive, class 8, corrosive substance, and class 9, miscellaneous dangerous substance. So those are the classification of hazardous waste or dangerous goods. Okay, so just now as we can see, it falls under the main 4 categories: toxicity, flammability, reactivity, and corrosiveness. Okay, so toxic means ability of a waste to produce injury upon contact with a susceptible site in or in the body of a living organisms. Okay, so it can become acute toxic or chronic toxic. So acute may happen within hours of exposure or inhalation, whereas chronic that are bioaccumulated, meaning that it will take some years before we can see that it is the impact of the toxicity to human or to the environment. Yeah. Flame, of course, it is meaning that it can be burned easily, yeah, and it has latent hazards such as potential damage caused by unintentional or spontaneous combustion, yeah. So, and also flammable waste, examples such as solvents, oil, pesticides, plasticizers, and complex organic sludge. Okay, okay, reactivity, it refers to something that can threaten life and also property in an acute as well as latent way. So what materials include are materials that can be detonated by electrostatic charge, something like oxidizing materials, self-reactive materials capable of auto-polymerization, yeah. So reactivity, reactive, yeah, that reaction that can happen from the chemicals, compounds, and so on. And then corrosive, yeah, meaning that it can be erode through chemical action, yeah. Materials considered corrosive, pH less than 2, aqueous material pH more than 12, and liquid which corrodes steel at a rate 0.625 centimeter per year at 55 degrees Celsius. So it can corrode due to chemical reaction, yeah. Okay, so what are the sources of hazardous waste? They could come from chemical industry, electronic, petroleum, and metals industry. Okay, so it may be from chemical manufacturers, vehicle maintenance shop, printing industry, okay, leather, paper industry, okay, so on. Okay, and include clinical waste as well, which is coming from hospitals, clinics, yeah. Okay. So the main impact of hazardous waste could be to the environment is due to water pollution, land pollution, and also air pollution. And it can be through absorption process, maybe through our inhalation of the gases, or ingestion, meaning probably we may eat the materials, yeah. Okay, so just now we have discussed the acute acute effect that may happen or occur shortly after exposure to hazardous substance, or chronic effect that may occur after repeated or prolonged exposure. And scope of hazardous waste in Malaysia, the government has enacted laws and regulations to ensure generators comply with the requirements of or minimizing their waste. Yeah. So in Malaysia, we have laws regarding this. Okay. And hazardous waste should include, the management should include cradle to grave, meaning that looking at where it's generated, how we store it, how we collect and transport, and then to do treatment to it, and then final disposal. Yeah, if it cannot be reused and other options, then it need to be disposed. Yeah. So we have to control the movement of the hazardous waste from generation, that we call cradle, until disposal, which is that we call grave. Okay, so there's differences between hazardous waste and scheduled waste. Yeah. So what does it mean? Hazardous waste is actually, by definition, waste with properties that make it dangerous or potentially harmful to human health or environment. Whereas scheduled waste, it is actually hazardous waste as well, but it falls under the first scheduled waste under the Malaysian law. Yeah. So that's why it is called schedule waste, because it is listed as first schedule. Okay, so this is referring to the definition is referring to DOE, Department of Environment, Malaysia, under the Act of Environmental Quality Act 1974, to control and prevent pollution and protect and enhance the quality of the environment. Yeah. So previously, you have learned about municipal solid waste management. Yeah. So and the enactment or the law would come from the Department of Solid Waste, the National Department of Solid Waste, Jabatan Pengurusan Sisa Pepejal Negara. But whereas for the hazardous waste management, it falls under different department, under the purview of Department of Environment, DOE. So you must, you should be able to differentiate. Municipal solid waste goes under the purview of Department of Solid Waste, whereas hazardous waste goes under DOE, Department of Environment, under a different quality, a different act, for municipal waste, it falls under Akta 672, whereas hazardous waste falls under Environmental Quality Act. Okay, so in Malaysia, toxic and hazardous waste are known as scheduled waste. So probably if you talk about scheduled waste in Indonesia or in other international countries, probably they will not understand what does it mean by scheduled waste. But it also refers to hazardous waste. In Malaysia, scheduled waste also refer to hazardous waste, but it falls under the first schedule, environmental quality, under scheduled waste regulations 2005. Okay, so it is referring to the act itself. Okay, so the relevant act for hazardous waste Malaysia, just now I have introduced to you EQA 1974 and the updated environmental quality schedule waste regulations 2009. So in the initial stage of EQA, it mentioned that any person who contravenes this section shall be guilty of an offence and shall be liable to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 5 years and a fine not exceeding 500,000 ringgit Malaysia. So if you heard about the situation where hazardous waste or scheduled waste being disposed illegally nearby rivers such as in Johor Bahru, yeah, Sungai Kim Kim. So anyone who actually actually have caught doing it, yeah, will need to be imprisoned, yeah, or also they can be fined, yeah. So this falls under the EQA regulation. Okay. Okay, so regulation or orders under the Environmental Quality Act pertaining to scheduled waste, yeah, which now currently refer to the Environmental Quality Schedule Waste Regulation 205, which means schedule waste managed responsibility of waste generator and penalty. So we will refer to these. Others we can refer to environmental quality prescribed premise. So in order to refer to how to manage premises, so we will refer to these. Schedule waste treatment and disposal facilities, Order 1989 A206. And then we also, so this is similar. All right. And the latest one, environmental quality prescribed activities under environmental impact assessment. So if you are proposing with hazardous waste treatment project or facility, you will also need to refer to environmental quality prescribed activities for EIA, yeah, 2015. Okay. Is the first one, the first EQA, Environmental Quality Schedule Waste Regulation 2005. It mentioned about the objective of Environmental Quality Act, yeah, which is mainly to ensure proper management of schedule waste, to prevent pollution of scheduled waste into the environment. Okay, so first management, proper management, then to prevent pollution, and then to monitor the movement of scheduled waste, meaning that it will also look at how it is being stored, how it is being collected and transported, yeah. So it will also look at that. So it has three main objectives. Okay, so in the Act, in the Solid Waste Act, there are the scheduled waste or hazardous waste falls into 77 categories, which and it is categorized into at least 5 groups. Yeah, 77 categories and falls into 5 groups, where the first SW, yeah, if you refer to the Act, it mentioned SW1, meaning it refers to the metal and metal-bearing waste. SW2 refers to waste containing principally inorganic constituents. So it refers to inorganic materials, which may contain metals and organic materials. Okay. SW3, waste containing principally organic constituents, which may contain metals and inorganic materials. So SW2, principally or mostly inorganic constituents or inorganic materials, whereas SW3, mostly organic constituents, but it may also contain metals and inorganic materials. Yeah, so the first one may contain metals and organic materials. Okay. And SW4, which contains either inorganic or organic constituents, and SW5, other kinds of hazardous waste. Yeah. Okay, here it mentioned that radioactive waste is also considered as hazardous waste, but it has a separate set of rules and regulations and will not be discussed here. Okay, so this is under Malaysian Act, yeah. Okay, list of hazardous waste, as I mentioned just now, SW1 to SW4, it falls under 5 groups. And okay, in the schedule waste regulations, in the environmental quality schedule waste regulation 2005, there are at least 17 regulations in the act. Okay, so what are the regulations? Okay, first, citation and commencement. Okay, we look at the first one, citation. Okay, citation I think is introduction to the act, yeah, and definitions and so on. Okay, regulation 2, interpretation. Okay, interpretation. Schedule waste means any waste falling within the categories of the listed in the schedule, in the first schedule. So I have discussed about that just now. So referring to the 2005, yeah, Environmental Quality Act. So there are categories, waste categories, 77 waste categories that falls into 5 groups. Yeah. Okay, next, Regulation 3 refers to notification of the generation of schedule waste. Okay, we look at, okay, still in Regulation 2, my slides explain about, so in Regulation 2, it mentioned about waste generator, yeah? Who are the waste generator? Meaning that any person who generates schedule waste. So anyone or industry or even a small shops that generates generates hazardous waste will fall under the interpretation as waste generator. And then in the regulation 2, it also explained about contractor, who actually can be considered as contractor for hazardous waste management. So it means that any person licensed by the Director General of Environmental Quality under subsection 18 Act. Yeah. So any person who has the license that can collect, yeah, contractor means they could be they are the one who is allowed to collect the waste from the waste generator. Okay, so what are the responsibility of the waste generators? Okay, every waste generator shall ensure that schedule waste generated by him or from his company, he or she is responsible to ensure that the hazardous waste should be stored. It may be treated on site if there are facilities on site. It may also be recovered on site, meaning that if we can reuse it again or recover some of the materials for reusing it again at the industry, then he is also responsible for that. Okay, recover on site for material or product from such schedule waste or delivered to and receive prescribed premises for treatment. So he is also responsible if he is not able to recover on site or to treat on site, meaning that on site is at their premises, yeah, probably at their manufacturing at their company, yeah. So if they are not able to do that, then they will have to identify to send it to other premises for treatment, yeah. So, and he is also responsible for waste disposal, hazardous waste disposal or recovery of material or product from scheduled waste. Okay, so that's his responsibility. So every waste generator shall ensure that scheduled waste that are subjected to movement or transfer to be packed, labeled and transported accordance with the guidelines. So he has also the responsibility to ensure that it should be stored, packed and labeled appropriately before it is transported to a prescribed premises that he will like to send to. Okay, waste generator shall keep an inventory of scheduled waste. So he needs to know what kind of materials that he generated. So he shall keep accurate and up-to-date inventory in accordance with the 5th schedule of the categories and the quantities of scheduled waste being generated. Okay, so he need to make a record of what are the materials, what are the and the amount of each of the hazardous waste generated. Yeah. So materials or product recovered from such scheduled waste to a period of 3 years. So at least he need to keep it for 3 years. Yeah. Okay. Then regulation number 5. Okay. We skip regulation number 3 because it is you can refer to the act, easily explainable. Regulation number 5 relates to the treatment of hazardous waste and also disposal of hazardous or scheduled waste. Okay, so treatment shall be treated at prescribed premises or on site. Yeah. Residual from recovery of material or product from scheduled waste shall be treated or disposed of prescribed premises. Okay, even the residuals, meaning that once it is the hazardous waste being treated and there are some byproducts or residuals, then still the byproduct or residuals will need to be treated or disposed at prescribed premise. Yeah. So the main materials or even the byproducts or residuals will need to be managed appropriately. Okay. Okay, then we are talking about disposing of hazardous or scheduled waste. So it should be disposed at prescribed premises only. Yeah, or hazardous scheduled waste shall, as far as is practicable prior to disposal, will be rendered innocuous. So meaning that the treatment of hazardous waste is compulsory, and then the disposal of hazardous waste will need to be treated and disposed appropriately as well. Yeah. So we will look at this later on, how a company, yeah, I think we will look at Senviro, Sdn Bhd, will be described how they treat the hazardous waste being collected from premises to and also disposal of hazardous waste. Okay, then regarding regulation 8, what are the responsibility of waste generator? Okay, so scheduled waste shall be stored, treated, recovered in proper manner. Yeah, so I think we have discussed it just now. It needs to be treated, stored and recovered, and then scheduled waste shall be delivered to the prescribed premises, and also it need to be packed, labeled and transported according to the prescribed guidelines. Okay. Okay, then regulation 3, I think dah campur. Now we refer to regulation 3. What is regulation 3? Notification of the generation of scheduled waste. Yeah. So the waste generator needs to provide notification, yeah, for collection of hazardous waste. So it needs to be done within 30 days from the date that any scheduled waste was first generated. So within 30 days, they need to make a notification. So the waste generator will have to contact the contractor, the waste contractor, and to announce them that they will collect the waste within 30 days. Yeah. Okay, so for hazardous waste management system, Similarly to municipal waste, however, the handling of it is more stringent, yeah, as it is more dangerous, yeah. Okay, so generation, we have to think about storage, transportation, and then storage at the site, at the facility, yeah, at the treatment facility, and then the treatment process itself, and also finally for final disposal at secured landfill, yeah. Okay, then refer to Regulation 9, storage of scheduled waste. So what the generator need to comply, they need to provide appropriate containers. Even the containers need to be appropriate, because we do not want any reaction occur within the container itself, and that may cause explosion, yeah. Okay, stored in appropriate containers. Incompatible scheduled waste stored in separated containers. So ensure that the incompatible, any chemicals that cannot be placed together, will need to be placed into a separate containers. And then containers shall always be closed. Areas of the storage is accordance to the guidelines. Okay. Stored not more than 180 days. It cannot be stored more than 180 days. Or accumulated quantity not more than 20 metric tons, whichever come first. Okay. So here is example of proper chemical waste storage. So it is actually described in the Regulation 9, how it need to be stored, yeah. So there should be impervious partition, yeah, suitable for materials. Okay, there should be barn about maximum 200 millimeter height. All right, so impermeable flooring, storage incompatible with in different areas, yeah. So make sure that incompatible waste will be stored or placed in different areas, yeah. Okay, then we refer to Regulation 9. What kind of labeling should the waste generator provide for the scheduled waste? Okay, first, the date when the scheduled waste are first generated, name, address, telephone number, yeah, waste generators shall be clearly labeled, yeah. Okay, then containers shall be labeled clearly as specified in the third schedule and marked with schedule waste code as specified in the first schedule. Labels are not allowed to be altered. Okay, so labeling requirement, there's dimensions that you need to follow, that the waste generator need to follow, yeah. And it should be square, 45 degrees, and so on. Okay, Regulation 10, labeling of scheduled waste. So label can be stick-on metal plates or stencil or printed on the container, yeah. Okay, what else? Regulation 11, waste generator shall keep an inventory of scheduled waste. Okay, so keep scheduled waste inventory in accordance to the 5th schedule for a period of 3 years. Yeah, I've already mentioned about that. Okay, and Regulation 12, information to be provided by waste generator, contractor, and the occupier of prescribed premise. So what are the information that they need to have? Information of scheduled waste to be completed in accordance with 6 schedule by generator, contractor, and receiver. So you need to refer to the 6th schedule. Waste generator shall submit within 30 days of the date transported. Waste receiver shall submit within 20 days of the date of receipt. Okay, now the waste generator will also need to require to use e-Swiss. Yeah, so there's online system by the DOE that they will need to use e-Swiss system for the information that are required for them to key in. Yeah. The waste generator also will need to be registered with the OE, and then electronic system for the transportation of scheduled waste from waste generator to waste receiver. Okay, regulation 13, scheduled waste transported outside waste generator's premise to be accompanied by information. So they will need to have waste card. Okay, waste card. Waste generator shall provide information in accordance with 7th schedule to the contractor together with the waste. Yes, so they need to have waste card. Waste generator shall inform the contractor the purpose and the use of 7th schedule. And also prior to any collection of scheduled waste from any waste generator, the waste receiver must obtain approval by the OE. So they need to fill in the e-Swiss, then need to be approved by the OE using the form, TWG form. This requirement is included as one of the conditions imposed in the license. Okay, so these are the pictures of the hazardous waste collection at a university. Yes, so it needs to be stored in a certain areas, need to be collected within 30 days. Then refer to regulation 14, spill or accidental discharge. So in event of spill or accidental discharge, the contractor is responsible to inform the authority immediately to do cleanup and to study the impact due to the spill or discharge. So this is the responsibility of the contractor. All right. Not the waste generator. The waste generator will need to provide technical expertise to assist in the cleanup operation. So waste generator will need to identify the technical expertise for them to help the cleanup process. And regulation 15, the final regulation is for the waste generator to conduct training, so that everyone in this of the staff will be informed, and will know what to do for the management of hazardous waste. So this is a compulsory, and it falls under regulation 15 for the waste generator to conduct training. Training to be provided by waste generator to all employees involved in scheduled waste management. Training includes identification, handling, labeling, transportation, and spilling. So the company, the industry, will actually required to conduct training so that everyone or the staff that involved in the generation of hazardous waste will know what to do for the disposal, how to collect, how to store, and to dispose of the waste. Okay, or another one, compound, regulation 16, compounding of offences. So every offence in regulation is liable to be compounded not exceeding 2,000 ringgit. 2,000 ringgit only. Okay, summary of responsible parties. So responsible parties involved in scheduled waste management, okay, in accordance to the regulations, the numbering of regulations. So starting from the notification of solid waste generation, it is the responsibility of the waste generator. Okay, and so on. Mostly the waste generator will involve in as a responsibility for each from waste generation until training, to provide training. Whereas the receiver or the contractor will be involved in disposal, treatment and recovery, storage, and also waste tracking. Okay, I mean contractor is only responsible for the waste tracking, transportation and spill reporting, whereas the receiver, the receiver for the hazardous waste will be responsible starting from disposal, treatment, recovery, storage, and waste tracking as well. Okay. Okay, so that's it regarding the regulations for hazardous waste. I think I will introduce to you a little bit about clinical waste handling, as it is one of the important waste management, hazardous waste management that we need to tackle. Yeah, and especially now when the pandemic is occurring. So I think clinical waste handling is important for a proper waste management should be done appropriately. Yeah. Okay, so it falls under the similar act under 19 EQA 1974. And then under the Act, clinical waste is classified as scheduled waste under Environmental Quality 1989, which falls under N251, discarded drugs, N261, pathogenic and clinical waste, and N281 under mixture of scheduled waste, and N282 mixture of scheduled waste and non-scheduled waste. Yeah. Okay, so consideration of clinical waste, of course, similarly, waste generation, source separation, yeah, labeling, and so on. Similar regulation falls for clinical waste. And a common and internationally accepted definition of waste generated in healthcare facility. So it can be healthcare products, healthcare waste, hazardous healthcare waste, infectious healthcare waste, and also something sharp. Yeah. Okay, so what are the categories? Healthcare, such as clinical waste, radioactive, chemical waste, pressurized containers, and general waste. So it falls under the category of healthcare. And then clinical waste that contain human or animal tissues, blood, yeah, excretion, drugs, pharmaceuticals, soil swab, syringes, yeah, any waste that come into contact or mix with any of the above, and also waste unless rendered safe may prove hazardous to any person coming into contact. So this is detailed, this definition. I think you can read through it later on. Okay, so overview of clinical waste. Firstly, waste will need to be separated or segregated according to its category, and then it will be collected to central store. So at the hospital or at the clinic, it should be stored at a central store area, and then a truck, yeah, the contractor will come, yeah, and transport the hazardous waste or the clinical waste, yeah, and then normally for clinical waste, it goes for treatment under incineration, yeah, and then finally the residues will be disposed in secured landfill, yeah. Okay, segregation. It is the responsibility of nurse and clinical staff to ensure proper segregation. And clinical waste normally will be deposited into yellow bags, and sharps will be provided into a sharp bins only. Okay, so for color coding, black for general waste. So at the hospital, if you see black bins means for general waste, yellow bins means for clinical waste for incineration only, and light blue waste for autoclaving or equivalent treatment before ultimate disposal. So if the waste, normally autoclaving would be biological waste, yeah. Okay. All right, so these are the color coding for hazardous waste at hospitals, yeah. And then labeling should be done as well. Okay. Handling, I've already discussed about that. Handling, storage, and internal transportation. Okay, regarding PPE, yeah, personal protective equipment. It used for health protection and safety for personnel dealing with hazardous waste. So to avoid acute exposure and minimize risk of long-term chronic health. Potential health and safety problem, exposure to toxic chemicals, electrical, fire, exposure to extreme high and extreme low temperature, and also exposure to high noises level, yeah, potential health risk for health workers. Yeah. Okay, PPE is a control measure to minimize personal exposure. Okay, PPE does not eliminate hazard. Yeah, the use of PPE may be introduced additional hazard to the wearer by interfering with one or more of the senses. Yeah. Okay, so examples of PPE. Of course, now, especially during the pandemic, we can see more on the PPE being used by the health workers. Yeah, respiratory protection, food protection. Okay, now we are looking into the treatment of hazardous waste. Okay, so what kind of treatment available for hazardous waste? So they falls under physical treatment, chemical treatment, biological treatment, thermal incineration. Yeah, most of the hazardous waste coming from clinical waste will be sent for incineration. Okay, and then fixation or solidification technologies. Yeah, so this will reduce the mobility of inorganic hazardous chemicals, whereas the biological treatment use living microorganisms to detoxify waste. Okay, so in this is the available treatment disposal at Senviro, yeah, Senviro Berhad, where they are using incineration plant, yeah, with a capacity of 55,000 metric per year, yeah. Solidification plant, treatment plant, physical chemical treatment plant. They have secured landfill for residues and also chemical waste treatment center, yeah. Okay, so this is a secured landfill disposal. Actually, we have discussed about sanitary landfill in the past 2 weeks. So actually, a secured landfill disposal is similar concept with the sanitary landfill, except that it has a more a better lining system, whereby they would have more lining system to ensure that the hazardous or the chemicals cannot seep through at the bottom of the landfill. Yeah, so meaning that they may need to have a better lining system, yeah, multi lining system, in order to ensure that full protection, yeah, of the environment nearby. Okay, so what is it about secure landfill? Okay, secure landfill disposal is one of the most important part in hazardous waste management. Okay, it is designed with a double membrane comprising a 1 meter thick compacted clay liner and a 2 millimeter thick high density polyethylene geomembrane, HDPE. Okay, so the lining system will need to be superior as compared to the municipal waste lining system. Okay, above the HDPE membrane is a drainage system made up of 0.4 meter thick layer of crushed rocks. Yeah. Rainwater, which percolates from the top of the landfill, is channeled to the leachate collection. Some are found within each landfill cell. So this is almost similar to the sanitary landfill that we discussed before, whereby the rainwater will need to be collected, yeah, on top of the landfill. Treated waste can be disposed of in the secure landfill in drums, polypropylene bags, or in bulk or in solidified form. Okay, so waste that being treated previously will need to be placed in drums or polypropylene bags or bulk in solid form before it is being placed in the landfill. Yeah. A well-designed landfill can delay leaks of hazardous materials to the environment because it has sufficient time to allow waste to become less harmful. Okay. So site for hazardous waste management. So how do we locate? What characteristics of the site suitable as to be selected as hazardous waste facility location? Yeah. Okay. Site selection. It should be located at a site that, by virtue it is natural features and land use setting, provides a high degree of protection to the public health and the environment. Okay. Proximity to sources, if possible, it shouldn't be too far away from the source of waste generation. Yeah. And to select falls, the selection process would have 3 main phases. The phase 1, regional screening to search the area. Phase 2, examination of the search areas, meaning that from we need to identify which are the best candidates to be selected. And phase 3, detailed evaluation of candidate sites for final site selection. Yeah. Okay. Site and subsurface characterization. Okay, we need to know what lies on and beneath the site of a hazardous waste management facility. We need to identify the geology, hydrology, chemistry, biology, and geotechnical engineering. Okay. Meaning that it may require various disciplines to understand or to make the selection for the hazardous waste landfill facility, that include the geology of the site, hydrology, the chemistry of the waste that need to be identified, the biological processes, yeah, and also geotechnical engineering. Okay, insufficient or incorrect site. I think you can read the rest. Okay, so if you have the time, I think it is advisable for you to see the YouTube regarding the hazardous waste management, especially for Senviro corporate video. Senviro corporate video. And they also have first scheduled waste plant powered by Senviro. Yeah, Senviro is the company. I think it is the main company that manage the waste collection and also treatment and disposal in Malaysia. Yeah. Okay, and they also have eco-sterile medical waste treatment. So in Senviro, Malaysia, Senviro is located nearby on the way to Seremban. Yeah, so they have a hazardous waste treatment facility, and they have eco-sterile medical waste treatment. Yeah, and also they also provide vertical secure landfill. Okay, in their facility. Yeah, you can watch the video later on. Okay, so if possible, understanding the hazardous waste, if you can answer these questions, means you would understand more on the hazardous waste management in Malaysia. So explain in your own word the terminology of hazardous waste and scheduled waste. Okay, this I will not give this for your assignment, but at least you should know the terminology as hazardous waste management would be in the quiz or in the test number 2. Yeah, so at least you should know this information, find out about it. Okay, you should be able to list and give brief explanation on the regulations and acts, as I mentioned earlier. the types, 77 types of scheduled waste, and also the 5 categories. Okay, you should also know about the possible adverse impacts of improper hazardous waste to the environment and to the human health. You should also identify or know about 5 industries, at least some industry. What are the sources of the waste generation? Yeah, what are the industries that may generate hazardous waste? Yeah.